Good morning, everyone. Let me begin with a simple truth. Your life today is the result of your habits yesterday, and your future, it's quietly being written by the habits you choose today. We often search for motivation, hoping for that one spark to change everything, but motivation may get you started. Habits keep you going. Think of water dripping on stone. One drop, insignificant, but drop by drop, over time, that water carves rock. It doesn't happen in a day. It happens daily. The same is true for your goals, your health, your relationships, and your dreams. It's not about dramatic changes. It's about deliberate consistency. Small habits like waking up 30 minutes earlier, journaling your thoughts, limiting screen time, or choosing water over soda may seem too small to matter. But repeated over weeks, months, years, they build resilience, sharpen focus, and create momentum. They turn intention into transformation. What separates the dreamers from the doers isn't talent, it's routine, it's discipline. Success is not a giant leap. It's a series of steady steps taken daily. Even failure, more often than not, is just a series of neglected habits, skipped workouts, ignored emotions, unchecked distractions. And the good news, the same way poor habits pull us down, empowering habits can lift us up. It's important to start small and start now. Don't wait for the perfect Monday or the right mood. Begin where you are with what you have, because every habit, no matter how small, is a seed. You may not see the fruit today, but trust the process. With time, it will grow roots, it will grow strength, and eventually it will change you. Habits are stronger than motivation. It's a principle that quietly governs success, consistency, and long-term change. Motivation is often praised as the spark that pushes people into action. And while it certainly plays a role, it's not reliable. Motivation is tied to emotions, energy levels, and circumstances, all of which fluctuate from day to day. One morning, you wake up feeling inspired, ready to tackle your goals. The next day, the same goal feels like a burden. That's the problem with motivation. It's inconsistent. Habits, on the other hand, are steady. They operate beneath the surface, guiding your actions automatically, regardless of how you feel in the moment. When something becomes a habit, it no longer requires a mental struggle of decision-making. You don't have to talk yourself into brushing your teeth every morning or making your bed. It's part of your routine. You do it because you always do it. That's the power of habit. It bypasses the emotional noise and turns behavior into something automatic. This is why people who rely solely on motivation often start strong but fade quickly. They burn bright for a short while, then struggle to stay consistent when the excitement wears off. But those who build strong habits keep showing up even on days they don't feel like it. Success in any area, whether health, creativity, relationships, or discipline, isn't built on what you do once. It's built on what you do daily. A writer becomes great not by writing once in a while when inspired, but by writing every day, even when the words don't flow easily. An athlete doesn't become a champion by training when they feel like it, but by sticking to their schedule, even when it's inconvenient. This kind of discipline doesn't rely on motivation, it relies on habit, the muscle memory of behavior that repeats regardless of mood. Habits also reduce resistance. When you've made something part of your routine, it takes less mental energy to do it. The brain forms pathways that make repeated actions easier over time. At first, waking up early feels like a battle, but after a few weeks of doing it consistently, it becomes normal. Eventually, it becomes natural. You no longer wrestle with the alarm clock. You just get up. The brain loves patterns, and when you train it with repetition, you free up space for focus and growth rather than willpower. Another strength of habits is that they protect progress. On days when motivation is absent and life feels heavy, habits keep you anchored. You might not do your best workout, but if it's a habit to exercise, you'll still move your body. You might not cook an elaborate, healthy meal, but if it's your habit to eat mindfully, you'll avoid slipping into old, harmful patterns. Habits provide a safety net, preventing total derailment and keeping you aligned with your values and goals. The key to long-term transformation isn't a burst of energy, it's consistency. And consistency is only possible when habits are in place. People often chase new motivation instead of building new habits, not realizing that the latter offers something far more powerful. Motivation is the ignition, but habits are the engine. They will keep you moving mile after mile, even when the terrain is rough and the excitement is gone. Creating strong habits starts with intention, but it grows with repetition. You don't need to rely on willpower forever. The goal is to make good actions so familiar that they become effortless. It might be slow, it might feel small at first, but it's sustainable. That's what makes habits stronger than motivation. They stick around. They don't ask how you feel. They just show up with you every single day. Small steps lead to big results is a truth that often gets overlooked in a world obsessed with quick wins and dramatic transformations. We are surrounded by stories of overnight success, massive leaps, and sudden breakthroughs, but what most people don't see are the tiny steps that made those moments possible. Real progress rarely comes from a single grand gesture. It's born out of small, consistent actions that slowly build momentum over time. One workout won't make you fit. One book won't make you wise. One kind gesture won't build a relationship. But repeating those small actions daily can completely transform your life. The power of small steps lies in their simplicity and sustainability. When people set goals, they often aim high, which is admirable, but they try to change too much too fast. They commit to unrealistic routines, overwhelming themselves, and eventually give up when they can't maintain the pace. Small steps, however, are manageable. They lower the barrier to action. When a task feels small, it feels doable. And once you start, it's easier to keep going. Taking small steps removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with progress. Each small step is like a brick being laid in the foundation of something much bigger. It may not look like much in the moment, but over time, those bricks form walls, rooms, and eventually a house. The same goes for your goals. Writing one page a day may not seem impressive, but in a year you'll have a book. Saving a small amount of money regularly may seem slow, but compounded over time, it becomes financial security. Drinking more water, walking an extra 10 minutes, reading a few pages daily. These habits appear insignificant alone, but they have the power to shift your health, mindset, and future. The beauty of small steps is also in their ability to build confidence. Every time you complete a small task, you prove to yourself that you can follow through. That proof becomes belief, and that belief becomes motivation. You no longer need to rely on bursts of willpower because your consistency creates a natural rhythm. Confidence doesn't grow from talking about change. It grows from acting on it, even in the smallest ways. Small steps also create space for learning. When you move slowly and intentionally, you become more aware of your process. You can adjust, improve, and adapt without the fear of crashing. When you rush into massive change, you're more likely to miss important lessons or burn out before you see results. Slow progress gives you time to reflect, understand what works, and refine your direction as you move forward. The journey becomes just as valuable as the outcome. Taking small steps also makes big goals feel less intimidating. If your dream is to run a marathon, the thought of running 26 miles might overwhelm you. But running 1 mile today, that feels possible. And tomorrow, 1 mile becomes 2. Eventually, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Every big achievement is just a series of small steps stacked on top of each other. You don't leap to success. You walk there step by step. People often wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect feeling to begin. But small steps don't need perfection. They need movement. And once you move, momentum builds. That momentum becomes progress. That progress becomes transformation. What starts as a small shift in behavior or thought can ripple out into every part of your life. Big results aren't the product of intensity, they're the result of consistency. And consistency is only possible when we embrace the power of small steps. Your habits shape your identity is a powerful truth that many people overlook in the pursuit of change and personal growth. Who you are becoming is not based on what you occasionally do, but on what you consistently practice. Every small action you take, every repeated behavior, every daily decision, it all adds up and begins to inform how you see yourself and how others perceive you. Identity is not something fixed or set in stone. It is something that is built brick by brick through the habits you choose to live by. When you engage in a habit regularly, you're not just performing an action, you're reinforcing a belief about yourself. For example, when you exercise daily, so don't just become fitter. You start to tattoo yourself as someone who is healthy and disciplined. When you read each morning, you begin to believe you are a curious or intelligent person. When you wake up early, consistently, you slowly adopt the identity of someone who is productive and intentional. These small, consistent behaviors become evidence that supports the story you tell yourself about who you are. On the flip side, the same principle applies to negative or unproductive habits. If you frequently procrastinate, you may start to see yourself as lazy or unreliable. If you constantly check your phone instead of being present, you might begin to feel distracted or disconnected. Your identity is deeply influenced by the routines you follow, whether you are aware of it or not. The danger lies in how easily these habits, even the small ones, can reinforce an identity you didn't consciously choose. Over time, the repetition builds self-image, which then influences future actions, creating a cycle that can either work for you or against you. The relationship between habit and identity is circular. Habits shape identity, and identity reinforces habits. Once you start seeing yourself in a certain way, you're more likely to act in ways that align with that self-perception. This is why it's easier to maintain a habit once it's connected to how you view yourself. A smoker who is trying to quit will struggle if they continue to identify as a smoker trying to stop. But if they begin to see themselves as a non-smoker, even before the habit is fully broken, their actions will begin to align with that identity. It's not just about changing behavior, it's about changing belief. This is why lasting change must begin with identity. If you only focus on changing what you do without changing how you see yourself, the change will feel forced and temporary. But if you focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally does those things, your actions will follow more effortlessly. You don't just want to write more, you want to become a writer. You don't just want to meditate. You want to become someone who lives with inner peace. When your habits align with your desired identity, you create a powerful foundation for transformation. The process of shaping identity through habits also provides a clear path for change. Instead of trying to become someone completely different overnight, you can ask yourself, what does the person I want to become do every day? Then start doing those things in small, consistent ways. Each time you follow through, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Over time, those votes accumulate. They create a pattern. And eventually, they reshape your self-image from the inside out. Your habits are not just tasks on a to-do list. They are expressions of who you are and who you are becoming. Every time you repeat a habit, you reinforce a part of your identity. You have the power to choose what kind of person you want to be, not by making grand declarations, but by taking small, consistent actions that align with that vision. Over time, those habits will speak louder than words, and they will quietly build the most important thing you own, your identity. The compound effect is real. It's more than a catchy phrase. It's a fundamental principle of life that governs success, growth, and long-term change. At its core, the compound effect means that small, consistent actions done over time lead to massive results. Just like compound interest in finance, where money grows exponentially the longer it stays invested, your daily habits, thoughts, and decisions compound over time to produce outcomes far greater than you might expect in the beginnings. Not about doing something big once. It's about doing something small repeatedly with purpose and discipline. Most people underestimate the power of small actions because they don't see immediate results. You can eat a salad today and nothing changes. You can skip a workout and your body looks the same. You can read 10 pages of a book and still feel like you haven't learned much. But what matters is not the single decision, it's the repetition of that decision every single day. That's where the compound effect begins to show its power. One good decision becomes a routine. One routine becomes a lifestyle. And over months or years, that lifestyle produces a completely different outcome. This principle works both for and against you. Just as positive habits can lead to positive results, negative habits can slowly create negative consequences. If you spend just 30 minutes a day mindlessly scrolling through your phone, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But over time, that adds up to hundreds of hours lost, time that could have been used to build a skill, deepen relationships, or take care of your health. Small choices made consistently, whether helpful or harmful, compound into your reality. The scary part is that many people don't notice the direction they're heading until the results are obvious, and often by then the habit is deeply ingrained. The compound effect teaches us that time can be our greatest ally or our most subtle enemy depending on how we use it. People often look for shortcuts or quick fixes, but real change is almost always slow. It is beneath the surface, invisible at first until one day it becomes undeniable. The person who decides to walk 20 minutes a day may not see any difference for weeks, but give it a few months and their energy, confidence, and health will be transformed. What looked like nothing at first becomes everything. What makes the compound effect so powerful is that it multiplies effort with time. The longer you keep doing the right thing, the greater the reward becomes. It's why someone who saves a little money every month ends up with more wealth than someone who waits to start saving until they feel ready. It's why a person who practices their craft a little each day becomes an expert, while someone waiting for the perfect moment never gains traction. The earlier you start, the more you benefit, but it's never too late to begin, because time will always work with you once you take the first step. The compound effect also builds momentum. Once you begin to see small results from consistent effort, it becomes easier to keep going. A few pounds lost turns into a better mood and more energy, which inspires better food choices and regular movement. One good conversation improves a relationship, which leads to trust, which leads to deeper connection. These small wins feed your motivation and give you proof that your effort matters. You realize that even though each step feels small, it's part of something much bigger. Understanding that the compound effect is real changes your approach to life. You stop chasing intensity and start pursuing consistency. You stop needing to do everything at once and instead focus on doing one thing every day that moves you forward. Over time, those tiny actions rewrite your story. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable, not because of one giant leap, but because of many small steps taken with intention and belief. Start simple. Stay consistent. It's a foundational principle for success in any area of life. Whether you're trying to build a new habit, learn a new skill, or create lasting change, the most effective approach often begins with simplicity and grows through consistency. Many people make the mistake of overcomplicating their goals from the start. They set lofty expectations, create elaborate routines, and expect instant progress. But the reality is that real lasting transformation starts with something small, something easy to manage, and something you can repeat every day without overwhelming yourself. Simplicity allows for clarity. When you start with a simple action, you remove confusion and resistance. Instead of spending your energy figuring out how to begin, you just begin. For example, instead of planning an intense workout routine, start with 10 minutes of movement a day. Instead of reading a whole book, commit to 5 pages. Instead of writing a full chapter, start with a paragraph. These actions may seem small and insignificant, but they create momentum. Starting simple reduces the fear of failure, lowers the barrier to entry, and helps you get moving without pressure. Once you start, consistency becomes the key that unlocks growth. Doing something once is easy, but doing it every day is where the magic happens. Consistency builds discipline and reinforces belief. Each time you follow through, you build a sense of identity and trust in yourself. The small action that once felt insignificant becomes a habit. That habit begins to shape your behavior, and over time, your behavior shapes your results. What was once simple becomes a natural part of your life because you showed up for it every day. Staying consistent requires patience. It's tempting to want quick results, especially when you're motivated or excited about a goal. But motivation fades, and when it does, what remains is your routine. Simplicity helps make that routine sustainable. When a task is easy to do, it's also easy to stick with during tough days. Life will always bring distractions, setbacks, and changes. But if your actions are simple enough, they remain doable even during chaos. A short workout, a single journal entry, a 10-minute meditation, these don't require perfect conditions. They just require you to show up. Starting simple also makes it easier to build momentum. Once you've established consistency, you can gradually add more. What starts as a 10-minute practice can grow into a 30-minute routine. What begins as a small step can evolve into a lifestyle. But this growth is stable because it's built on a strong foundation. You're not rushing into change, you're growing into it. This approach prevents burnout and builds confidence. You know you can trust yourself because you've proven it through consistent action. Another benefit of simplicity is that it focuses your energy. When your action is clear and defined, your attention doesn't get scattered. You're not juggling 5 things at once or trying to be perfect. You're just doing what matters most. This focus strengthens your progress. It teaches you how to prioritize, how to stay grounded, and how to keep moving forward without getting distracted by complexity or comparison. The simplicity of your starting point becomes the anchor that keeps you steady as you grow. Over time, the results of your simple and consistent efforts begin to compound. You look back and realize that what once felt like a small beginning has turned into real transformation, not because you did everything at once, but because you started with what you could do and never stopped doing it. The power lies not in how big you start, but in how long you stay committed. Simple steps taken repeatedly create extraordinary outcomes. When you embrace the idea of starting simple and staying consistent, you give yourself the best chance to build something that truly lasts. So remember that extraordinary change doesn't require extraordinary effort. It demands only small, purposeful steps taken every single day. When you choose simple actions and honor them with consistency, you set in motion a powerful force that transforms your health, your mindset, and your life. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You need only to begin to believe in the compound effect of habit and to keep showing up no matter how modest the action. Your future self will thank you for the daily investments you make today. So pick one small habit, commit to it, and watch how those tiny choices lead to monumental results. Here's to the power of daily habits and to the incredible life you're building, one step at a time. Thank you.